forestry at Penn State, ethnobotany, University of Guam. I worked for 21 years in the Air Force as a pilot, but half time was spent in horticulture, agriculture, and tropical fruit. So even though I was upstairs, I was downstairs too. Then I flew for Aloha Airlines for 20 years before they went out of business. And we bought this place. This is Ninole Orchard, 35 acres. We've had this since 1989, so I guess we're in our 26th year now. So everything you see here is 26 years old or younger, actually 25 or younger. This was a raw piece of land when we bought it because it had been in sugarcane for 100 years, and we bought it in March, and in February they cut everything down, harvested the sugarcane, and put land on for sale. And this was a private piece of land owned by the Aguiars, which are local people here. So we started this project here using, my background. We had a farm on Oahu, 1.5 acres with 180, 190 tropical fruit trees, and we had a tropical fruit tree nursery there for 26 years as another side. All us Geminis can do 2 or 3 things at a time. My interest has been tropical fruit, anything ethnobotanical, not too much on the medicinal side, all kinds of agricultural crops. I grew up on a dairy farm in Pennsylvania, and so we had many, many different kinds of things, if anybody's familiar with that kind of operation. So I have an interest in anything agriculture, forestry, so forth. Very, very broad. Consequently, what I do here is very, very broad. We have our cash crop, and that's hearts of palm. We started Hearts of Palm in 1992 as the original farm, working with the University of Hawaii and Dr. Charles Clement, who was doing his PhD, working on Hearts of Palm production for Hawaii. So we took his research. He had a block up here, 1.5 acres, and we worked with him all the time, until he got his PhD and left, went back to Brazil. And we picked up the palm heart industry and developed everything from A to Z, from the boxes all the way back to the agriculture and propagation, everything. So over the years, we developed the whole thing, got other farmers involved, because you can't have an industry with one farmer, unless he's super big, and then that's a monopoly. And I don't believe in monopolies, so unless it's a play game. We have a number of farmers in Hearts of Palm. That's our cash crop here. If I made nothing from everything else, that's what we paid for everything else. Because this is a research farm. Like Dr. Mansard, who has his class coming in 2 weeks over from UH Manila, he says this is Ninole Agricultural Research Station and Botanical Garden. And that's about what it is. Okay. We wouldn't care if we made any money if there wasn't an IRS. Okay, so what do we have here? And what's this place like before you go out and start to look? We're at 350 to 450 foot elevation. 35 acres, we got the river over there and the stream over here. We're off grid. We have permits to use water from the streams, which are very hard to get from DLNR. We use solar. We have our own power. We have our own water. I could lock the gate and we could probably survive. That's my vision, and that's what my family's vision has been back thousands of years as farmers from Switzerland and southern Germany. Subsistence agriculture. That's what it's all about. Any one of you, if you had the right knowledge and the right seeds and the right thing, you could take an acre of land and just about survive. Just about. There'd be some hardships, but you add another 4 acres, and now you're up to a level where you could survive and maybe feed a few other people. And then as you add more and more acres, you start feeding more and more people. And it's according to what crops you grow. But back to what else we have and so forth. We get 144 inches of rainfall a year here. We had 221 last year. As it's stacking up already, even this month we've had, let's see, so about 21 and a half inches, okay, in the last 5 or 6 days. So it's quite variable. We have fantastic soils here, 6, 8, 10 feet of soil. Okay? Hardly a rock anywhere that you can find. So the Hamakua, once you go north of Hilo, up to wherever you want to draw the line. Great soils, lots of rainfall. The wind's not too bad, but we have windbreaks around everything because that was one of the first things in planning a farm is your windbreaks and whether or not you'll need them. Most times in Hawaii you need a windbreak. You'll see here podocarpus, gracilora, that's when I started and I was first farm to use that for the windbreak. Now it's everywhere. We use Eucalyptus trelliana. We harvest Eucalyptus trelliana when they get too big and we're ready, and we have a sawmill and we saw our timber. And all that timber over there is from our windbreak trees, Eucalyptus trelliana. So that's where the agroforestry comes in. And if you plan correctly in your thinking and so forth, you put in windbreak trees that are not only good for windbreak, but when you get done with them, if that ever happens, you can use them for something else. And podocarpus is excellent for cabinetry wood and so forth. And then we have other kinds of windbreaks too that also have uses. I don't normally recommend fruit tree windbreaks like jackfruit and so forth, but we do have a special mountain apple from Brazil that works as a wonderful windbreak. Okay? So there are exceptions. We grow Pili Nut, we grow papaya, pineapple, of course hearts of palm, pupunya, the fruit of the palm, peach palm. We grow avocado, limes I already said, other citrus. We have about 180 different kinds of fruit trees here. We don't try to make them productive to make money, but they're those kinds of things that we eat, we use, we can sell on the side and so forth. On the experimental side, I deal with many people from around the world, and we exchange seed. I'm working in programs in different countries like Denmark and Germany and so forth, and we exchange seed. And a lot of times, because we have such good growing conditions here, that we can grow such a wide variety of things, we have plots of things that are special, that we're producing seed for other countries for, and things like this, because there's lots of things out there. There's thousands of species that we can plant and eat. So we just have a few. And let's see, what else about the farm? Let's see, about 29 usable acres, and then the gulches where the streams are, that's pig territory and banana territory where we grow our bananas. Let's see, I guess that's about it. Any specific questions about this land here, the farm or anything I've forgotten?
Do you practice silviculture, like the integration of animals with agroforestry?
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. We have no animals currently except for the mutts and the cats, okay? At one time we had hair sheep, geese, and chickens and ducks, okay? But the older you get, the less you want to mess with these animals because they take a lot of care. I mean, no matter. You can let them roam and so, but we no longer have that integration. If there's somebody that worked here that was young and liked animals, we'd have animals. We'd have hair sheep in certain plots. Okay, we'd have geese and ducks. We do have fish. Okay, we have orange tilapia, in our ponds. Okay, so we have some integration, and we'd have more integration because we're totally fenced. We have 1 mile of fencing. But I grew up on a farm dealing with all these animals. I'll tell you, they're a lot of work. So you got to be ready to clean hooves and all kinds of things, deworming. Things that you really, don't necessarily have a lot of time to do. So now let me I answer your question okay?
Yes.
I know because there's a couple animal kinds of people here that are interested, so you won't see much. So just a few things I threw out here that you'll see probably. We do, well, we'll start right here. Gandulis, okay, ganduli beans, pigeon pea. Not only are they excellent to eat, but this is a fantastic green manure. This particular one will get a trunk on it that's about 6 inches in diameter, okay, 15 centimeters for the Chinese student, and the tree will get 15 feet tall. So it produces a ton of fruit if you want to eat it, or, the green, or a tremendous amount of organic matter, and we use them. Agroforestry, permaculture, all these kinds of terms that we put together, they all sort of work together, okay? And I'm not going to say that we have any particular thing here that you can say is permaculture or is agroforestry or anything else. I mean, these are all terms. Apply them how you want. And after you're done walking around, you might say this is an agroforestry operation, or you might say I don't want to come back. Either way. So some of the things that we do a lot of cucurbits. Not a lot, but that's from Africa. That's a fluted gourd, okay? And we eat the vegetable tips of that, okay? This is another type of gourd that's used for ipus, okay? That's one of them there. I do ipu dyeing. We do a little, when I'm totally bored in the winter, when it's raining so much that I can't go out without drowning, I have a wood shop, and we do ipus and many other kinds of things with the wood that I make. We do kabocha, okay? This is a new cucurbit from Panama. They call it the Panamanian passion fruit. I haven't eaten it yet. This is the first one that's ripe. They say if we cut it open, it'll be bright red inside and sort of sweet. One person said it tastes like tomato soup. Another one says it tastes like passion fruit. Maybe a gentleman from Colombia. Have you ever seen it? No. Have you seen it? No. No. Okay. Well, it's a vine. You'll see it up here. So it could become a rampant weed, or it might be okay. We don't know much about it, nor do my friends in Panama. It seems to be just a local kind of thing.
What's the genus on that?
Cion something or other. It's very long. I'd be glad to give it to you.
Okay.
It's one of the few that I can't remember.
Okay.
Anything starting with CION.
Okay.
Okay. We do Theobroma species here. We do cacao. This is Theobroma bicolor, Macombo. You might know this one.
Nope,
No.
never seen it.
Where are you from?
Colombia, yeah.
City? The city?
Well, there's cacao growers all around me, but I've never seen that specific one.
I'm not trying to zero in on you, but anyway, Macombo. There's many other names for it. This is a big tree. It's not like the normal cacao. Theobroma bicolor is a genus species, and we're using this as a cupulate chocolate. Friends that I work with that have Madre Cacao Company make chocolate. They're using this about 30 or 40% in their chocolate to make cupulate chocolate. And the seed in this are absolutely delicious. When you fry them, they're fantastic. Oh, they're incredible. Except for, I'll bring it up right now, but many crops that are experimental like this and that we're working with and so forth are not always so easy to process. Post-harvest is as important, if not more so, and harder than pre-harvest. So this is one of those conditions. This is easy to get the seed out. The pulp is usable. You can use the pulp, okay? And you can make a nice juice out of it, okay? Just like they do of Theobroma cacao. But getting the slimy mess off the seed in order to use it for cupulate chocolate or for fry is another story altogether. And so maybe you want to smell it. The more ripe it gets, the more fragrant. It's a very nice fragrant thing. Okay, speaking of post-harvest issues, here's another one. Okay. man from Colombia or Guatemala know what this is? Yeah. Sacha Inchi. Yeah. And what Sacha Inchi is a vine that is a Euphorbiaceae. And it's this seed that has a seed coat on it, which is used to express oil. And the oil is the highest thing you can get vegetable-wise for omega-3. Has 6 and 9 also. But omega-3 oils is what it's touted for. Now what we do, we like them fried for 5 minutes. And when you fry them, they become very crispy, little salt on them, and they're really delicious. They're super crunchy. You put them in salads, however you want to eat them. They're very, very delicious. But once again, we're in South America, in Ecuador, and Peru, where they grow a lot of them, and Colombia too now.
Yeah, I do know about that.
Okay. We have been trying to find the diagram of the decapsulating machine. Everybody wants to sell you one, but they won't, of course. We're having trouble getting a machine because we own a hand-operated machine. You know, we're not producing tons of it. We're producing enough for consumption and local sale. So we need a machine to take this fibrous hull off of this and then to crack this seed and get the kernel out of it post-harvest. Of course, in South America, they have all these machines, but they're usually bigger and they're on a larger scale and so on. So your assignment, if you accept it, get me the diagram for a hand-operated infrared.
You can work on that on a rainy night, a rainy season.
Now, I've given some of my best engineers, and they've given up on it. But I know it can be done. So it's post-harvest thing. But that's a wonderful nut. And it has a future because it grows supremely well in Hawaii. It grows better and produces more in Hawaii under the Hamakua conditions than it does in Peru. And I've compared results based on small plots and so forth. And it comes to bearing much quicker also. And it's a crop that lasts 5 or more years. So anyway, papaya. Now, lots of people grow papaya, but they don't grow this papaya. Okay. This is exotica. And exotica is from Malaysia, and it's a hybrid between Subang number 1, which is Malaysian, big Malaysian papaya, and Sunrise Solar, which you can see in the flesh color. And this is absolutely fantastic. People, when they eat this, they don't want to eat another papaya because it's the texture and the sweetness and the flavor. It all has it. Except for the Japanese rejected it because it has spots. Okay? So the Malaysians were pissed when they worked on it for years, finally got this papaya for their local market, but then couldn't sell it to the Japanese because the Japanese want perfection. Of course, this tastes like perfection. Anyway, and that papaya there, we started in 1989 with the seed, and we've been using the same seed since, okay, 25 years. So you get a good papaya, and since they're pleistogamous, which means that they pollinate themselves, then you can maintain, you know, a line. Okay. Now, of course, Monsanto and these people don't want you to do that, but forgive me. Anybody know what this is?
Pili Nut.
Pili Nut. Good. Hey, we've got some educated people here. This is from the Philippines. Filipinos will tell you it won't grow anywhere but the Philippines because there's a certain blessing that they have on it. I beg to differ because I've introduced this all over the world. It's growing in Africa for the last 20 years, doing very well, and the people love it there. It's growing in Sabah, Borneo, Sarawak, Thailand, all over. I've spread these seeds to the dismay of the Filipinos. That's okay. They're cutting all their trees down for timber because it has a wonderful timber. The shell on this also makes one of the finest carbons for laboratory work. Okay, as good as macadamia shell. Okay, so it's used for that purpose also. And the kernels are delicious. Eat them raw, eat them roasted, whatever. We got up to $27.50 a pound for processed dried nuts for the restaurants in California. So it's got a good future. We have been selecting these nuts for 40 years now, and we've increased the total nut in shell from about 18% up to about 30%. So a huge increase over 40 years, just by selecting trees and having good genetics to start with. So that's another crop that we have. I don't think anybody's going to know what this is. Yeah, it's citrus, okay. Come on, all you Jamaicans, you should know what this is. This is Ortanique. This is a natural hybrid from the Blue Mountains of Jamaica. And it's a hybrid between, they think, between an orange and a tangerine. But it's a wild native. And it's stabilized, and you can go see this and get these. These are Ortanique. No one's, I haven't, so I didn't show. Avocados. We started out with 15 cultivars of avocado when we brought them over from Oahu, and we're down to about 5 now. We found that avocados, of course, are very ecologically, they embrace ecology, certain ecologies and habitats. And when you bring something from a 60-inch rainfall, hot and dry in the summer, to a 150-inch rainfall, they ain't necessarily going to do what they're going to do at the other place. And that's why we started with 15 and we're down to about 5. We now have what we consider as good productive avocados for the Hamakua Coast, high rainfall, good soils. Myristica, okay. Charl does okay, but the fruit are small because it sets so many fruit, you'd have to thin them in order to get bigger fruit. So I eliminate Charl. Green gold. Green gold is superb here. Okay. Also, we have Hamilton, which is an unnamed cultivar, but we selected it years ago at the University of Hawaii. Dr. Richard Hamilton, who Professor Emeritus, passed away a few years ago, my mentor. And then we have Raposa, which was another fellow that worked at the university, and these were ones that we selected. So there are 1 or 2 others that we have, but slowly they're coming under the chainsaw. Because we know what works and what doesn't. So why plant something that doesn't? Lots of room for expansion on avocados, but one must form an avocado industry in order to move it forward. Okay. Let's see, what else we got? Okay. Yakan. Okay. Yakan's another Peruvian crop. Strangely, Peruvian, Ecuadorian, Colombian things do fantastic here. The Petabahi, okay, Bactris, for the hearts of palm and the fruit. Okay, our Guadua angustifolia, our bamboo, okay, does fantastic here. As a matter of fact, I've had architects from Colombia here that are the people who use Guadua, Velez, and so forth, and they said it grows better here than it does in Colombia. So, what else do we have? Yakan, okay. This is a wonderful crop. Anybody has here eaten it? Okay. Was it sweet?
A little bit.
A little bit. Ah. That's why these are out in the sun right now, because most people don't know how to handle them. They have to be put out in the sun for about a week, okay, so that they increase, they metabolize, and the starches change to sugar. So you're going to increase your percentage of sugar tremendously by putting them in the sun. And the people who grow this, the native people in Peru, in the higher elevations, they like to see it all shriveled up before they eat it, because less water, more sugar. I love it. I just eat it like an apple. It's wonderful. Okay. Probably don't know what that means. I would probably give $10 if anybody really could give me the scientific name and knew what this is.
It's not air potatoes.
It's not a potato. The potato is a tuber. This is a root.
Cassava?
Nope. Anyway.
Tapioca.
What?
Same thing.
Tapioca.
Same thing.
It's sort of like a bird out there. I don't think
Okay.
it is.
What this is a legume crop. Okay. This is a traditional crop in Peru, Amazonian parts of Ecuador, sort of a semi-low elevation to medium elevation. Okay. There are a lot of cultivars of this. This is Pachyrhizis tuberosus. Okay. Some of you might know Pachyrhizis erosus, which is cinquemas, or the Philippine round potato kind of thing. Jicama. You know what jicama is?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a different species like jicama. Okay. It has more sugar in it. It's eaten raw or cooked or baked or boiled or whatever you have. Okay. This particular one I just dug this morning, and the biggest one I've had so far was 13 pounds or 14 pounds. This one is 7.85. But we have, what we've done is we've been working with people in Denmark, and this is considered a starch crop. They make chips out of it, they cook with it, they eat, they make the starch for soups, all kinds of things, okay? Excellent starch. So there are many cultivars of this, according to where you are in Peru and Ecuador, as to what kind of cultivars people are growing. This is a very unusual one. This is called Yushpi, Y-U-S-H-P-E, Yushpi. And Yushpi was found back in the 30s, and it disappeared. Disappeared out of sight of the ethnobotanists and other people in agriculture, up until a couple years ago. And they refound it in a village in Peru. So Yushpi is one of them. Ashipe is another one. There's Amarillo, Chion Amarillo, Chion Blanco, Chion, let's see, the black one, Morado, Chion Morado, okay? There's a lot of cultivars. Each one grows a little differently. Each one has different characters about it. And there's another species too called Pachyrhizis ahipa, which is a small kind of thing, more like a jicama. So there's a lot of interest. We have selected, after growing them for 3 seasons now, this particular one, Yushpi, because the tubers, the roots grow downward. Okay? So when you're harvesting them, when you cut down with a shovel or whatever, pull your thing, they're easy to get. The other cultivars grow outward. So when you try to cut down whatever, you're cutting them in half. And so, and they're no better quality than this one. As a matter of fact, we like this one better. People like to eat this. Actually, some people like this better than yakan, even though it only has about 8% total soluble solids or 8% sugar. Yakan is much higher. Anyway, so that's a few of the, just a few of the things we're going to see. So we'll probably head on out. You got any questions on what we've covered so far? My wife?
Because you don't need to.
No matter how much you grow, you always want to go to the store. There's always those things that you don't want to, you know, I don't want to grow sugar. Although we have stevia and other things, you know, there's other aspects. And of course, I should say that yakan makes a wonderful sweetener, and that's what they use. They make a sweetener out of this for diabetics. And so, you know, sweeteners, we grow black pepper. I could go to the ocean and get salt. I mean, some of these things. Vinegar, we could produce when we get our pupunya. Now, what do you call the peach palm fruit in Colombia?
Palmito.
Huh?
Palmito.
That's the heart.
Yeah, that's the heart. I don't know.
But the fruit. Pupunya, in Panama, I have another one. Costa Rica. Okay, anyway. If we get all the ladies here to chew the pupunya after we've cooked it for 40 minutes, then they can make checha, if I'm pronouncing it right. That's the drink. Alcoholic chicha. The drink, okay? They can make the drink. But men cannot chew it and make the drink. So if you use that, you can have your alcohol, and if you let it long enough, you can have your vinegar. So what I'm saying is all those kinds of things we have to go to the store for. Salt, sugar, vinegar, pepper, all these kinds of spices. You can grow turmeric here, okay? You can grow every spice that we almost want to use unless it's a Mediterranean spice, and even some of those, rosemary, thyme, so forth, you can grow. Hey, if we had enough people on this farm, we could probably grow about everything one would want because Hawaii is such a fantastic place, at least on this Hamakua Coast for this sort of thing. And if I'm excited, well, that's, oh, I forgot one thing. New crop, okay. These beautiful little gems here, I know nobody can guess what these are, but this is the same as nutmeg, okay? But this is called Calabash nutmeg. Okay. Calabash nutmeg is an African tree that's used for spice, okay? Same way nutmeg is used. And it's Monodora myristica. Monodora is a genus in the Anoniaceae or soursop family, okay? And what we're doing is drying it and then we'll grind it and try it out, because this is our first crop, okay? And these came from Africa, from Rory Danforth, not the seed, but the original seed, 30 years ago. And this is the second generation of this tree. So it's a wonderful thing. So we'll see when I grind it, if it is. Okay, so let's head out. Bamboos and textiles. Okay, equipment. What we've found important over the years on this 35-acre farm, a tiller, but it's hardly used, okay? A manure spreader, it's always used because we are organic, 99%. We grow natural. We're not certified. I don't believe in political nonsense, which that is. We do things natural. If we need to use some Roundup somewhere, we use it. If we don't need to use it, we try never to use it, okay? But you will have problems if you're starting a farm. You can't do without Roundup unless you have 1,000 workers. I don't care how certified or uncertified you want to be. Okay, tractors. We have a chipper. With as much trees and wood as we have, chipping is a twice a year, if not more, operation. Of course, we use all the wood chips and we recycle back into our system. Nothing leaves the farm. We only bring in lots of things. Only thing that leaves the farm is those things like hearts of palm, avocado, and the fruits. Okay. We chip we harvest bamboo. We have a lot of different kinds of timber bamboo. After, a timber bamboo, you might harvest 20 feet, and the other 40 feet is chips. And that's what this is. This is bamboo chips, okay? And we use it for working on biochar and other things, okay? We do biochar here. Experimentally right now, we're working on our little system, okay? So manure spreader to spread everything, okay? Chipper, chip, compost back, okay? So that's basic, basic kind of things. Any questions on equipment?
Where do you get the manure? That's a
You mean
secret.
this? That's the only manure we have. We don't use manure anymore because the chicken farm, for 15 years this farm used nothing but chicken manure from Kauai High, from Dave's place. He went out of business, got tired of chickens, so we had to stop chickens. Then we used a number of different things, and we finally end up with fish. This is the fish compost, okay, the fish meal. And it's 10, 3, 10, something like that. It varies, okay? But this is nice stinky stuff, and we bring it in 20 tons at a time. This is 1 ton each bag, and that's what the manure spreader is for. Now, we spread it with the manure spreader on our palms, okay? We spread it wherever else in our orchards with a manure spreader, because you don't want to have to be handling this stuff, short of using a front loader and spread it. Okay? Your hands will stink for a long time thereafter. It's pretty good stuff. We're pretty much like it. Okay? It comes from Oahu, from commodity suppliers or something like that. Okay. I'd love to have lots of chicken manure, but unfortunately that's not the case. No more. This is an edible bamboo that you don't have to cook. we're working on a biochar. Biochar is very good because we have so much from our sawing, our chipping, and a lot of other things, always scraps. So we're working on our system. We're going to make this into a circular walk kind of thing. They have above ground walks. We're going to make it into a circular kind of walk, whereas we only have big iron things that we're going to put around just like a walk, and then, but we want to keep it mechanical. So the only thing is we cut our bamboo here and our other wood, we do our thing. We come in with our front loader, scoop it up, put it over there, take our big huge flail mower, composting flail mower, set it down on top and grind it off. Scoop it up again and put it in the compost pile. We mix it with our compost. Okay. Anybody want one of these native? Oh, I thought you were going to catch it. Anyway, whoever wants that.
Lily Coy.
Lily Coy. You're going to see a lot of trees around here that you have no idea what they are, like this one and so forth, but we don't have time to cover everything.
Jaboticaba. Tons of Jaboticaba, look at that. Oh, this is amazing. Durian. We'll have pasta. Durian there.
Okay, one thing in planning any farm or agroforestry operation, especially like this, agroforestry is really an orchard, okay, with windbreaks. I mean, that's as agroforestry as you can probably get. And that's what this is. This is a durian orchard, but when different time frames elapse in any orchard, you can start doing other things with the orchard, okay? We have interplanted theobroma, okay, cacao. The one behind you is cupuaçu grandiflora, okay? You've probably not seen one that big. All three of them there, they're grandifloras, okay? Cupuaçu is a big pod. It looks like the bicolor that I showed you, the green one, except for it's smooth and brown. And the pulp is very, very important for drinks and ice cream. And the seed is very good to eat, also to fry, okay? So what we've done is the durians have reached a point, being 20-some years old, that they provide a good overstory. So we plant cacao underneath them and other theobromas that want some shade. Okay? So it doesn't interfere. We can harvest the pods. As a matter of fact, cacao is one of the few theobromas that stay on the tree. Cupuaçu and Theobroma bicolor, they drop, so you pick them up. Durians, they drop, you pick them up. So we don't have to do tree climbing, okay? I reserve that for Pili Nuts. So figure sizes of trees, eventual uses, spacing, aspects, slope, all these different things. And this mound here, when we started with soil conservation, 4 acres to begin with, out of the 35, and this was the 4 acres. There were 4 blocks in here, 1 acre blocks. Durian, 1 acre, rambutan, 1 acre, and then the top 2 acres were mixed fruit trees. So I needed a place for avocado because coming from a 60-inch rainfall area, I didn't know if we were going to have problems with root rot, phytophthora root rot in avocados here. So this was our avocado hill, okay? That's Hamilton avocado, Raposa avocado, green gold, and one that's never been named, but we call it Papailoa. So you can see we had a huge crop this year of durians. There's still about 4 left on one tree. Durians alternate about every 3rd year. You have a big crop. In between years, maybe none or only a couple or a few, according to the cultivars. We have Cobb, D132, Chani, and Montong. Plus we have about 5 other species of Durio also. We have Durio, back here, this row back here are rare durian species, and there's a couple others up here.
But for the most part, they never fruit or flower. So, not really, they don't like the climate there. It's too wet. Now, once again, you can see with manure spreader and stuff, we can come through and just go up and down the rows and put our fish compost down without too much work. This had been in sugar cane for 100 years or thereabouts, okay? And so it was probably mismanaged pretty much. We put water terraces in at the bottom of each block of land. There's a water terrace down here, okay? And what that does is the water that comes down is diverted into the gulch so it doesn't erode the bottom part. Actually, we could have used another one across here, but you know, we do what, you don't want to spend too much time on water terraces, but you got to have a balance. We have another one at the top, and so forth. There's about 6 or 8 water terraces on this property. Bulldozing, we didn't rip. I don't believe in that. I don't think it's necessary, but some people will have a pan that's developed because of a lot of plowing, and maybe they have to be ripped. We dug profiles and it didn't need ripping here. We added about 3 or 4 tons of calcium carbonate, ground up lime, ground up coral per acre. Okay, so a lot of and that'll be good for 100 years. Let's see, what other? That's about all we did. We work with soil conservation. They help pay for windbreak trees, which I grew all the windbreak trees, and they pay for water terracing, some of it. They pay for pond, some of it, things like this. But they don't do that anymore. So we're lucky to have started 25 years ago. Okay, so under here you can see the cacao, and some are ready to be harvested this weekend. These are other Theobroma species. Over the years we've used a lot of different kinds of ground covers, but with perpetual mowing, not everything wants to stay alive. This is Sarawak bean here. There's the pea, the perennial peanut here also. So certain places, some things do better than others. We have heterophyllum, Desmodium heterophyllum, which is natural all over the Hamakua Coast and so forth. So there's a lot of different kinds of ground covers here. Some work better than others. Because they've never fruited, and I doubt if they ever will fruit. This had 1 fruit on it one time. Chipping, okay? And, when we chip, we put it up wherever at the time. And if you're just putting down chips, it's okay if there's some green, because it's nice to have about, a good balance between the nitrogen and the carbon. But you'll never get that just by chipping wood and so forth. But because we're on a regimen for the last 25 years here, if you dig down, we have the microbia, the mycorrhiza, all the good things, all the fungi and so forth, enough of it, that when we put the raw stuff down, like we did on the cacao here, we know that there's enough nitrogen underneath because of the continuous use that we're not going to have to top dress it again. If you didn't have any of this and you were trying to start from scratch and you just put down wood chips and what little nitrogen might be in it, it might not be enough. And it'll actually detract from the growth of your trees. So it's something you have to consider all the time. And of course, what we do is after we put our chips down, we come along with buckets of our fish compost and we throw it around. And that provides the nitrogen on top of the stuff and addresses that situation. Okay? So you haven't seen anything here that looks sickly, and normally you won't. Also, and these are collections of wild collected costus from South America, from all over. This is a collection that a man in Florida has been working on. So we grow them here because we can grow them here better than they can in Florida. So these are all wild collections from different parts. Some from Colombia too.
In Guatemala.
Huh. Yeah.
Not cordata, but a different species.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Over the years, because I moved from tropical fruit more to the scientific side of doing taxonomy and gingers and collecting, and have been for 40 some years, 50 almost. This is sort of botanical gardens. Wherever we can get things, we bring from all over. We'll plant all kinds of different things. Like this Hoya is the largest flowered Hoya in the world. It has a flower about that big. So wherever, and by developing an architecture that's a forest or jungle, you can do this sort of thing. You got the vines and the trees, you got your understory, you got many levels. And that's what you're working towards in any long-term farm agroforestry operation. If you're growing gourds, it's a different story. But if you're growing trees and other things, there's many, many things, you can do. I mean, most trees have vines and stuff. For the Chinese lady here, this vine is from China. These are Pulisan. This orchard started out as rambutan, this acre, but we moved it very soon afterwards to Pulisan because rambutan's price dropped a lot and consequence. So we went to Pulisans. And they don't do that well. I mean, they grow well, but we don't get a lot of production. But that's okay. They provide shade, and that's something also. So you'll see a lot of new trees here. This is a tree from Ecuador. Where you see all these tags, these are all my research collections of ginger. They go dormant until about April, and then they'll just start coming up. So all these are labels of gingers that if you came here in 3-4 months, you'd see 1,000 gingers, all different kinds from Thailand and Southeast Asia.
John, how much do you keep trying on something and how much success do you have? I guess I have a fear of I'm going to invest all this time and energy and the thing is not going to live and I'm going to be like frustrated. Do you just keep trying and keep trying, or?
It's sometimes it's according to how thick your wallet is. Because that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If you had $1 million and you didn't care about it, you wouldn't care how many times you had to try it if you really were interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be a balance of, does this crop have potential? Has it been used in other places? How much money do I want to invest to maybe bring it to a level that I can sell it here and actually recoup my investment?
Mm-hmm.
And how long will that take? I mean, it's not too much different than a banker asking these questions of his client about his investment or something. I'm retired. I'm on a different wavelength as far as that goes. I can put anything I want in. I'm not worried about your question. But if I were to sit and recommend to you, based on knowledge of your land, how much you want to invest in that, I would come up with a list of certain crops to integrate. I'd never give you just one crop.
Yeah.
There would be an integration of crops. And it might or might not fit your philosophy, because everybody likes to deal with some different things. Some people like to deal with ground crops, sweet potatoes, whatever. Some people like tree crops, and then there's all the people in between too. So,
So in your 30 years of playing and trying, and how much trial and error did you have?
tremendous amount. Most of it trial, a lot of error, and some success.
Okay. Okay.
Let me say that in the first 26 years on Oahu, the success level was much lower than it is here. Here, the success level is like 4 or 5 times better than Oahu. And it all has to do with one thing: rainfall. Rainfall. Rainfall is the key. No rainfall, you got to look at total different kinds of things than if you have the rainfall. And if you have good uniform rainfall, you're even better off in some ways. But like Pulisan, unless you get a distinct dry spell with a lot of things, you're not going to have any flowers. Okay? And if it does flower and then it rains, the bees don't come and they just drop and you don't get set. So there's all these different things working against you, okay? Lots of things working against you. When you have many, many different species like I do, we treat them all the same, okay?
Okay.
It's like having 12 children. You can't give one more food than the other. You give them all the same. They all get the same organic compost. They get, you know, mac nut husk and all the other stuff. They get what's available, and they either survive or they don't
Okay,
survive.
that's what I want.
And those things, and whether you can afford to do that's another story, but those things, you know, we can look around and I can tell you that this tree is a Lonchocarpus. It's there because it's a legume tree that can be used for black pepper. You can plant black pepper on it because it always goes up and it provides just enough shade but not too much, okay? And then you could chop the top off for green manure. It's a legume, okay? The pulsans, well, they haven't worked out too good, but they provide the shade I need for all the other kinds of botanical work that I want to do. So you can go on and on. I mean, we've got these trees up here, these big ones in the next row are Torah, Ortocarpus odoratissimus, big fruit, and there's some on the tree. It's a delicious fruit. I could sell every one I have, but here's the problem. 2 days off the tree and it's gone. It has no shelf life. And to be able to pick it when it has 2 days on the tree is a secret that only the monkeys know. Okay? Because you're lucky if you can get 1 out of 10 that's perfect. So these are the obstacles at which we must bear with. And sometimes you can overcome them in different processes using your
Ortocarpus odoratissimus.
or your mind way. 3 or 4 years it's gone. You cut it down, it has a stump that big, you know, and yeah, I can't say enough good about pigeon pea. Okay, so this is headquarters, research headquarters, and this is where we do anything and everything propagation-wise, from the rarest gingers to rarest seeds and stuff that we get from all over the world. For instance, I'll bring this out, but that is Ossipulchra, okay? Now, there is a spot, okay, in anyone's collection, whether they're growing sweet potatoes and palm heart or what have you, or ornamentals, because everyone that has a farm should first have a nursery. That nursery should have water to it, so you can water the plants, and you should have some shade, and you should have some overhead, so that you can do things in the rain when it's raining like that. So this to me is a perfect nursery. I don't have electricity here, and I don't need it. Okay, I don't work in the dark up here. So this works perfect. This is a university-designed shade house. This was on Oahu for 26 years. I disassembled it when I sold the farm over there and bought it here and reassembled it. Okay. Of course, it's not Rudy's shade that's on the top, but
it's lasted.
But it's lasted for years. Yeah, many years. So to get a good design from the beginning of anything that you put in, any kind of structure is probably pretty important. So we can do everything here. And I only use one media for everything. At one time, this nursery could have 800 species of many different families. This is the one thing that I have been using ever since 1976. Okay? It's only 2 components basically, and that's big R Redwood compost, which is available at Home Depot or any other place that you can imagine, Walmart and so forth. It's cheap enough that, I don't know, like $7 or $8 a cubic, a bag. And then I mix it with perlite, okay? And you can use different grades of perlite. So that mix with a little dolomite in it, a little NutriCoat in it for the fertilizer, slow release, and then I use biochar on certain things. Everybody familiar with biochar? Okay, this is stuff that Josiah. Anybody know Josiah Hunt? Okay. Anyway, this is what he produced, and so I mix this in with a lot of different things in the potting media. Okay, when we need something really well drained and so forth. So there are a couple other additives that we do now and again. NutriCoat I find better than any of the other fertilizers.
Do you
So
use
it is.
rooting hormone for cuttings? Do you do
For cuttings, yeah, we use rooting hormone for any cuttings that we do. Okay, that's it right there. So, but we don't have to spray or anything. We don't. One thing about being organic for so long, we really have no insect problems. Okay, for any entomologist here, budding entomologist, you don't come here because you'll not have anything to do. So, and luckily, I mean, you know, and if I did spray and everything, you wouldn't probably see all those bees and stuff, you know. So we don't spray. We give some back, let nature take whatever it needs, and we take the rest. Okay. So anyway, this media, for instance, people would grow Hoyas. I introduced them to this media. Now it's all they use because the Hoyas even grow better in this than anything. Okay? So, yeah. Navel orange. Okay, so any questions about nursery operation or anything? We don't have a week, but I've worked in nurseries and propagator at Waimea Botanical Gardens and so forth.
So I just found this as we were
That's
walking.
it, avocado seed.
How would you treat this? Would you
Okay,
just-
first of all, you never take an avocado seed from the ground.
Okay.
That's the first step, because avocados are very susceptible to Phytophthora. Phytophthora cinnamomum, which will kill an orchard in 1 year. Okay, it goes by flow in the water. You get it in the ground, it's in your orchard forever. Okay, there's ways, they've tried rootstocks, they've tried lots of things, but to get rid of Phytophthora ain't going to happen. You can ameliorate the soils and try to improve to keep the population of it down, but in the long run, just plant something else if you end up with that. So the first step is you don't pick one up off the ground. You only pick Guatemalan race of avocados because they're high oil content and they have better resistance to Phytophthora than the West Indian or the Mexican. Okay, everybody understand avocados? We haven't got there yet, but there's 3 races: West Indian, Guatemalan, and Mexican. Okay, Mexican are high elevation. We don't grow them in Hawaii. They don't grow good in Hawaii. They're only on the vine for 3 months. They're low oil content and they're teeny. They're small. I mean, I've seen Mexican avocados this big. They're very small. They don't meet our palate too well. Although in Mexico there are some good ones. And they always have the smell in the leaf of anise. You can always tell a Mexican avocado or one that has the genes of a Mexican avocado, a hybrid in it, because it smells like anise, okay? And it's a dominant gene. The other race that you'll see mostly here is West Indian. That's from the Caribbean. They like low elevations, sea level. They like sandy soils, calcareous soils, and in Hamakua here, they don't do well. They don't like it. They'll bear a little bit. The trees don't look healthy. They just don't like it. Guatemalan, the best kind. Now, West Indian, to back up just a second, you can tell West Indian because they're normally pear-shaped. The seeds will rattle, okay? When you cut it in half, the seed shell, the testa, will stick to the flesh, and which is the brown part here. That will stick to the flesh, okay? And you'll have a naked seed inside. That's why it rattles, because it's smaller than the cavity. Bad. Guatemalan, West Indians have a short shelf life. After 2 or 3 days, they're going to get fibrous. They're going to turn nasty because they don't have the oil content. As long as a plant of avocado is on the tree, the more oil it's going to get. So a Mexican's on for 3 months maybe. West Indian is on for 6 months. And Guatemalan are on for as much as 18 months. That oil content keeps increasing to a certain level genetically, predisposition.
Predisposition.
That's one. Yeah. So, anyway, the best avocados are Guatemalan. They have the highest oil and flavor are synonymous. Okay, so ones in the market. If you ask people in the market at Hilo or wherever, What kind of avocado is this? Oh, butter avocado. Oh, go to the next stand. What kind of avocado? Butter avocado. They're all butter avocado, and most of them are West Indian. But there's a lot of hybrids between West Indian and Guatemalan. Okay, so that's a whole new, that's another class, avocados. Okay, and by the way, when you take an avocado from the tree and you want it for seed, you take it out, you wash it, you put it in hot water, 120 degrees, 10-20 minutes, just as another treatment if you really want to be safe. Okay, and then when you propagate it, the ovary and your seed will germinate, and it'll split this in half, as you've seen probably, and then it'll pop up through the middle here. If you want to expedite that germination, you cut the top 2/3 of this off. Okay, and by doing that, now you have a flat surface. You've exposed this, and it'll germinate much faster. I mean, weeks faster. So.
If trees start on their own from the ground, are those, no, don't do it. Okay. Only from picking it.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's the best way. And then keep them off the ground. Don't put them on the ground. You know, keep them raised when you're growing avocados to graft.
Okay, yeah, nothing on that.
Yeah. We just did a lot of grafting yesterday on citrus. I'll bring this out, but we'll get the citrus there, and I'll tout. This is Hinaran rootstock. This is a rootstock from Sri Lanka, and it's proven to be dwarfing, resistant to a lot of diseases, and grows very well here in the heavy rainfall and soils, because that's what it came from. Right? And so this is just a top wedge graft using page tangerine on this. We did a bunch of them the other day. Okay.
Is it only avocados that you can't pick up, or can you pick up like oranges and use their seeds?
Well, you could, but you don't grow oranges from seed.
Okay. You
Graft
graft
it. Graft it. You don't grow almost anything from seed. You graft it. That's if you want to live to see it produce fruit.
Okay.
You know, if you're young, you can plant a seed. Go for it. But
Maybe
if you're my age, you don't want to plant, you know, well, I mean, I plant seeds no matter, but still, you know, when you got a million species, you can plant seeds, because some you just won't see, you know, in your lifetime, but other people will. So you have to have a certain philosophy, you know, maybe a Buddhist philosophy about the whole thing. No one is perfect. I don't care how many farms you start. There's always some things that you have to take the chainsaw to. And, you know, being a plantaholic, I'll plant just about anything, given that I don't know exactly what it is, and it might have some good possibilities. And because you can always get rid of it. Now, if you go buy 20 acres of old durian or old macnut or so forth, then you got a different situation at hand. That's where you get the big chainsaw, big bulldozer, and so forth, because refurbishing old fruit trees can be done. You have to top work, which maybe somebody noticed. We top worked an avocado on the other side by bark grafting. But in the most part, it's better to start fresh with good new rootstock and such, if the capabilities are there to do it. These are tarap trees. This 2 acres here was planted based on a family. Each row is a different family. Okay? That was the initial plan. Of course, over the years, we've intercropped with other things. These 3 trees are the Monodora myristica, the Calabash nutmeg that I talked about from Africa. Beautiful ornamental tree. Good tree for economic purposes, I would assume. And when it's semi-deciduous, so it drops all the leaves, and then the new leaves that come out are purple. And they hang down, and it's absolutely gorgeous sight. But it's a beautiful tree. Very, very interesting to use in the landscape. So these taraps, Artocarpus, we have a lot of different Artocarpus. That's Artocarpus tamarin there. This is Artocarpus champedek here. That big tree there is Artocarpus sericocarpus, I believe. We got an Artocarpus anisophilus, and one other artocarpus. We took rigidus down and we put it on the sawmill. A big log you saw out by the barn, that was a tree that was over here, artocarpus, I think it was rigidus or elasticus, we weren't sure. So now it's just nice slabs of wood. Okay.
Is it rigid or elastic?
Huh?
Is the wood rigid or elastic?
It's very
Is it
sticky.
good wood?
It's very sticky. It was oozing, even after a year sitting on the ground, it was oozing latex.
Huh.
Yeah.
Is it pretty hard though? Like decent?
Like jackfruit, it's medium density wood.
Okay.
Yeah, because they grow pretty fast. But all your artocarpus, all your durio trees are good timber. Okay. They have nice grain, and artocarpus are yellow wood. The wood is yellow. You don't find yellow wood too much. So, especially jackfruit, oxidizes to yellow very nicely. Okay. So, I mean, I've got a beautiful log there if and when I ever want to take some of these trees down. So, you got to have a sawmill. Renovating some of this, we have a lot of different things. Some of these artocarpus need a very distinct dry season. They've never flowered yet. That one there, beautiful big tree from Sabah, Borneo. Delicious fruit, orange flesh inside, never flowered. Yet the crops that are also from Sabah, the same place, all these fruit every year. Different species. You know, what stimulates these and what doesn't, you know, that's a question sometimes. So you're taking a chance no matter this, okay? Because durian is such a prized element and we sell every single one that we get, we're planting more durian trees, okay? And it's hard to go wrong with durian as a tree crop. No picking necessary, only a wheelbarrow, okay? No advertising necessary because so many people out there are Dario fanatics. They come banging on your door. There are 3 people I just turned away totally this year. You know, there's just not enough durians to satisfy everybody, and there won't be for many, many, many years. Okay. So plant durians. So the next row up here, there's a lot of new trees, but the next row, this was primarily Burseraceae, which is Canarium, it's a Pili Nut. Pili Nut is a Burseraceae, okay, Canarium genus, and there are many, many different ones here. These are all nut trees. The one on the end is from Vanuatu, and it's got nice big fruit similar to a Pili Nut, but they taste totally different.
What species is that?
That one is Canarium harveyi, variety Neohebridens. Okay. Long story behind the collecting of the seed by Dr. Vince LeBeau in Vanuatu area.
Oh, Vince LeBeau.
And this is Canarium odontophyllum. That's the female tree. This is the male tree, and obviously the female dominates here. It's a little black fruit, and you eat the pulp around it, not the nut, because the nut's too small, the kernel. But the pulp is what's edible. And you just put them in boiling water for a couple of minutes and eat them. Take the cerveza and so forth.
Butterfly.
That's a citrus moth.
Ah, 2 of them.
Yeah, and they're the ones that lay the eggs and have the nice caterpillars that like to eat your citrus leaves. So when you see them, squash them.
But isn't he also pollinating for you?
No.
Oh.
No, the bees pollinate. So this is the citrus row. I've already showed you the rootstock. Quinoran is a rootstock that we use. It's very, very good. There's only a few citrus that we recommend or have been recommended over the years here in Hawaii. Fremont tangerine, right? Fairchild tangerine, Page orange, which is orange tangerine hybrid. Okay, that's Page there. This is Fremont. The next one over is Fairchild. Okay, Tabata orange, which is this big tree back here. Oh yeah, big tree back here, and they're all on Hinaran rootstock. If you look at the rootstock after 25 years, actually I've been in the nursery for a couple before that, still clean, still great, even with Tristeza virus that we have here in Hawaii that's endemic. The trees are healthy, they produce good crops every year, and probably 90% of that quality and efficiency and everything else all has to do with the rootstock. Wrong rootstock, things are not going to go so well. And in 10 years, you'll have dead trees, they'll have gummosis, they'll have a lot of bark shedding, a lot of different problems. But the rootstock's very key. And so anybody that wants seed of Heneron, we have plenty of seed. It takes a couple years to grow it because it dwarfs. It's very slow growing, and that's why nurserymen don't like it. But you can see these trees are small. If this was on Carrizo or Troyer or some other rootstock that is a traditional one, they would be giant trees. Okay? They'd be definitely giant trees. Because even in 60 inches of rainfall at Pomoho at the research station in Oahu, 25-year-old trees were like 3 times the size of that Tabata. So they do have a dwarfing effect, but the quality is fantastic.
The lichen, is that harmful at all?
Not really, not really.
Citrus off metal.
Yeah, it's something, you know, when you're in this kind of rainfall, you're going to get lichen growth.
So don't bother trying to push it off.
No, you got other things.
I got other things.
You got other things in the day to worry about. From here on, these 2 rows basically are long Kong. Anybody know what that is? Lancium domesticum.
Yep.
Okay, and there is every country that likes it has their own. In the Philippines, they call it Lanzoni. It's the same species. In Malaysia, they've got Duku and Duku Longsot and Longsot, 3 different ones. Okay, and then in Thailand they have Long Kong. Okay, and Long Kong is the best of all of them. Okay, so all these trees are grafted Long Kong. There's 2 old trees here that produce twice a year, and then these are top work trees of Long Kong in here, and then we got 2 other in-between size trees that have fruited also. So very few people have it. There's been some problem with some people at some places with a lot of bark shedding, ants and other issues, but we haven't seen that here yet, even on our oldest trees. So we don't really know what's causing that. Anyway, we have a few issues with it because it's a white fruit, and the ants, of course, like to come up and they like to get some sugars, you know, from things, and they leave, and you get black sooty mold on it, mildew on it, and so they can tend to look a little odd, but you can always dip them in Clorox solution, you know, 5% Clorox, and that will immediately kill any black fungus, and they turn bright, shiny white. That's after you harvest it. Fluorescence is coming out. So if all the flowers set, which they usually do, you'd have a long group of fruit like grapes, you know, all on that stem. Okay? And so they're not really easy to pick. You got to climb the trees and so forth. But they'll normally all come in at about the same time, because once you pick one, you got to pick the whole inflorescence. So you have to sort of wait until some of the oldest ones drop and everything is good, so there's a balancing point in there.
Who will pick this?
Huh?
You pick this?
I climb. I'm the monkey. I'm the monkey. I'm the resident monkey.
You pick all of this?
Yes, I picked. Green manure. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, nothing.
Yeah. So I picked. So sometime I'll be too old and won't be able to pick. Maybe when I'm 90. Here is another green manure. If you look out here, these plants are approaching 25 years old, and they are still active, and they still get green manure from them. 25 years. Okay. No other green manure. All this right here, that's green manure. Okay. In a second, I'll remember what the species is, but it's a legume, and it's
Is it camphor? Camphor?
No,
Oh.
that's camphor tree right behind you.
Okay.
But it has a very small seed, usually only 1 or 2 in each one. But this is a great green manure. It puts in a lot of nitrogen in the underground side from the mycorrhiza. You take a chainsaw and we just cut it back. We've been doing this. This was our experimental planting. It's been here for almost 25 years. As long as these trees have been here, that green manure has been here. Okay. it's great stuff, you know, and we just drop it and use it.
What's
So-
what's the scientific name?
That's why it's. Let's see. I'll think of it in a few minutes when you haven't asked the question.
Not
I think
Centrosema,
about-
is it?
Huh?
Centrosema?
No, not Centrosema is a
It's a
vine.
vine,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, not Centrosema.
This is a shrub.
This is a shrub bush, and we've found it spread around different parts. I mean, it'll come up. You can see. You just keep chopping it, and it just it's a really good thing. One of the, I mean, pigeon pea's great, but it's short-lived, 24 years.
And those are not pruned.
No,
You
no.
don't prune them.
Never.
No, never.
They shouldn't.
We do not prune tropical trees, okay? Unless there's something wrong, major wrong with the architecture that's going to hurt the tree, some cross weird branching. We never prune tropical trees. That's just my philosophy, but there's a lot of scientific fact behind that statement. Okay. There are many proponents that a lot of tropical trees should be pruned so that they get smaller, they can plant more per acre and so forth. If that's what you want to do, you go for it. I don't manage my orchards that way. I believe if they're going to get X amount of feet big in a certain amount of time, then that's the space that I'll plant them at. Okay, and I'll use all the space in between for something else until they reach that size. So there's different philosophies. You absolutely never prune an avocado tree except for deadwood. You can prune carambolas, and we do. Okay, carambolas we top because the fruit, it's so heavy with fruit that it bends it down. You can see these trees over all these years, they formed a tight bending canopy, which we can pick. Those need topped again, and you'll see that, how can you pick that? That's only bird food. So certain things you have to do some pruning to in order to maintain. But mangostein's not one. You climb the mangosteen tree with your pole and sickle and you knock them down. Okay? That's what it's all about. Just get your climbing shoes on. This is the
Which is no shoes.
spice orchard section right here. This is Theobroma bicolor, the green pod that you saw. And there might be some on the tree. It grows totally different than there's none under. I wouldn't stand under it.
Yeah.
Don't stand under the tree because there are some on there, and it would be just my luck that one would come down crashing down. But it's a little off season now. Anyway, these are totally different form, and we're actually working on a management plant for cacao. Since these are used to make cacao in certain processes, like I mentioned, we're thinking that these might be your inner story shade trees. You plant, a row of these, tight spacing, 2 rows of cacao, a row of these. Since you're going to use them at 1/3 of this and 2/3 cacao, plant 1/3 these and the other 2/3 cacao. Now these drop by themselves. Pick them up off the ground. Your cacao you're going to harvest because you always keep cacao. We'll talk about them over here. We keep cacao so they have only like 3 jerquettes, a certain level. And that's another pruning operation, but it's different. This is guarana, this vine right here. And anybody know what that is? That's
Energy stuff.
yeah, the energy drink. 3 times the caffeine of coffee. It's just loaded with fruit later in the year, and we just leave it, even though it's a jungle vine, and it'll go. I mean, you can see it going to the tree. We used to have it on big gluricidias, but you can't pick it then. I mean, it's lost. So you have to have it down, and you can manage it like this pretty easily and get a lot of fruit. Okay, get your caffeine jolt if you want. and it's in the Sapondaceae family. So it's related to lungnon, and it looks like a baby lungnon. Okay, nice fragrant flowers. Bees really love it. This is Genitum genam. This is a tree used for its greens in Indonesia. We eat the greens. All these greens are delicious. Okay, and this is a very ancient tree. Okay, very, very ancient, along with the dinosaurs. You can see it. It's like almost like a gymnosperm, but these are the flowers. And then they take the small fruit and they cook it and pop it like popcorn. So in Indonesia, it's very, very important.
Are these dioecious?
I'm not sure. I've got another tree right here. I haven't seen a fruit set, and they could be. I'd have to look that up. But I thought I had seen, because they're flowering now, I thought I'd seen both male and female. They might, be on the same inflorescence, but in a different portion of it or something. I don't know the floral biology of this. So. But they're very slow-growing trees, and the seed takes about a year to germinate. I can tell you for sure. Bergmansias. This tree is from Ecuador, and there's only one in Hawaii, and this is it. And we're hoping for it after 25 years to eventually flower and set fruit. The fruit is like a big acorn with a cap on it, like your hat, and that's ground up for cinnamon. It tastes similar to cinnamon. It's in the cinnamon family, okay. But the people use it for the bark to make oil, the leaves to make oil, the roots to make oil. Every part of this tree has this oil in it. So if you take a leaf and you chew on the leaf, or half of a leaf, and pass it around, you can smell that. It's very good. Very good. Chew a leaf. Carefully. This is medicinal. We make tea out of the leaves. Okay. Very good.
Is this in a moment?
No.
Good.
Great.
Has a sweet rush.
Probably from Jim West. Is this one from Jim West? No?
But Jim has it.
Yeah, because I got seeds from him
Good,
years
good.
ago, and I got some about, my tallest one's maybe 10 feet.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But no sign of fruit or flowers or nothing.
No fruit or flowers. 25 years plus. So anyway, but it takes that long for them. They're very rare. Oil is about $50 a dram for the oil, and it's a cure-all, panacea for anything, so they say. So when it reaches a certain point, you want to get rid of it because it breaks up into little pieces, and then you'll be spitting it the rest of the trip here. About 20-some-year-old cacao. So you can see what an old cacao tree looks like. Still very productive, even though you've got tight competition with lots of other things. Still very productive. These are 3 different hybrids from Borneo that were grown and hybridized for heavy rainfall areas.
So you do not prune this.
No,
This is what you do with Theobroma. In its juvenile stages, you don't want it to end up too high because it's difficult to pick. And these are not good examples, but usually you have one trunk and a jerquette. It comes out, you got 3 branches or more. And then below that, I should have showed you down there, another sucker will come out, and that's the new jerquette. And it will finish growing after a meter, and it'll put out more branches, and it'll keep going like that. You saw the Theobroma, the kupuasu, huge trees. Every meter there's branching. These will do the same thing basically. You don't want that. So after about the 3rd jerquette, okay, 3 levels, you start pruning, so you get no more suckers. Get rid of the suckers, and eventually you'll only be pruning out dead branches and stuff because parts of it will die, or you'll get something that's too low you need to get rid of. But you need that structure because that's where your fruit are. And the better structure you have like that, the more fruit you're going to have.
Do they like some shade? I mean, that
Yeah.
probably helps, right?
You must have shade almost anywhere in the world where you plant cacao initially when you plant it. There's different philosophies in growing cacao, but if you don't have shade, you're going to get sunburn, you're going to get lots of other problems. They don't like it. These are jungle, shade-loving, succulent leaves. So when they get older, you can remove some of the shade. All these big stumps were eucalyptus. That was the shade. And we took those down about 5 years ago, turned them into timber, and this suffered for about a year, and then they came back.
Are you vulnerable to the witch's spot and the different fungi that are attacking cacao?
I don't know if we have it here in Hawaii. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
There's a trial that different orchard people are participating in. Are you part of that? No.
Nope. And they've had much compost over the years, and so there's enough of the good guys that it will start breaking it down. But we've already put fish over top of this too, so we've given some nitrogen that's necessary. We try to do a minimalist approach. Okay, we don't want any more fruit in this carambola. It already fruits twice a year, 3 times a year, and produces so much fruit. We don't want any more because the birds get a lot of it. The rest goes to the veterans' home, or I sell a few when people come. If you had an acre of carambola at this spacing, oh my God, you know how much fruit you would have. Somebody tried that already, the juice, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
This is a typical Chompadek. Now, as artocarpus go, it's according to where you are in the world in the tropics. What is the most important artocarpus? Okay, in Hawaii, it's breadfruit. Okay, in Malaysia, it's Chompadek. Okay, in Borneo, it's Tarap, the Artocarpus odoratissimus. In China, it's what we call Kwai Muk, I think. Artocarpus, there's a couple species. In Jamaica, it's jackfruit, and Florida and a few places. But each one of these Artocarpus are quite varied as to their environment that they prefer to grow in. All these are seedlings of a Chompadek from Sarawak, a red flesh Chompadek. If you look at this tree, you'll see a different shape than this tree on the fruit. This is a typical Chompadek, long, skinny. That's a jackfruit shape. And what has happened, the reason these are planted is because I have poor pollination on that other one. All these appear to be hybrids between Chompadek and jackfruit. And so far, no flesh inside, only rind. But this is only coming up now, the second fruiting, so we'll see. Sometimes it takes several years, to get past that. But Chompadek, if you haven't tasted it, you have to get past the smell a little bit, but it's much better than any of the others. Unless you're Hawaiian or Samoan, you like breadfruit, and I do. We have lots of breadfruit. We have about 4 cultivars of breadfruit. Okay. Any questions on Artocarpus?
What's
Anyway,
the maximum elevation of breadfruit that you...
That's very difficult to say. It'd have to be more by cultivar, and you'd have to do like a survey around Hawaii at different elevations and see what's growing and fruiting. I don't know if anything like that's ever been done, but I'd say you can grow it in Florida, so you should be able to grow it to 2,000 feet here. Just a guess. We know that, for instance, when in Sabah, Borneo, northeast Borneo, in the mountains at 3,000 foot elevation in the Crocker Range, and their mountains go to 13,000, but at 3,000 to 5,000 feet, if we bring something from there to Hawaii, it grows beautifully, perfectly. It's like putting it right, it's like Sabah, translated.
Climate analog.
Huh?
The climate analog, as they say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, but we use jackfruit to graft Chompadek onto. It works very well. You can use Champedek to graft jackfruit on. But Champedek's not quite the same kind of root system as jackfruit. So there are some issues there sometimes. So anyway, what will happen here is we will evaluate these 15 trees and pick the best one. Or maybe there's some that are all the same. Okay? As long as they're good, they'll be okay. But we have a very good Champedek back on Oahu, which is the best we've ever tasted. And what we'll do, if they're no good, we'll cut them and bark graft with the good one. These are just rootstocks in that case. But we might get a good one that's as good as the one on Oahu. So, you know, chances that you take. But I have the space and stuff, so we can do it. Okay. Attic that we had goats, geese, ducks, and so forth in for the pond. And, you know, if you have any kind of pond, this kind of arrangement can work out very well because you fence it off and you can have about anything you want, you know, in here. Because the geese graze, the hair sheep graze, they don't bother anything else. They've got the water, the geese, you build a platform for the geese so they can lay their eggs so the mongoose don't get them. Same with the ducks. And the ducks and geese poop in the water, and all these big orange tilapia that are in there, it feeds the algae, and it's just a cycle.
How deep?
That's 9.5 feet deep,
Oh.
and holds 150,000 gallons. Huh. And the water comes from the stream, but it's not lined, but it has kaolinite in it. So we lined it with kaolinite, about 5 tons of kaolinite, and tilled it in and then gladed the pond with compost and so forth until we thought we had a pretty good thing, and then we built it. So there's a lot of techniques to pond building. This is 70 by 90, 90 by 70, and so it's been a very good pond.
Is kaolinite a type of clay?
Yeah, it's a type of clay that expands. They use it in oil drilling to line the walls and so forth, other functions. But yeah, it's available. And these trees down here grow very well because you have, of course, water will seep under. So your Champedek trees here and breadfruit and so forth, they grow very well with that extra water. These here are agroforestry trees. All our agroforestry guys, girls. This is Flugia flexuosa. It's grown primarily in American Samoa, and that's where the seed for these trees came from. It's used in traditional house poles because Samoans like to use house poles to make their houses, and they last for a very, very long time, like 100 years. This wood is impervious, they say, to insects of any nature, any kind. These trees are about 7 years old, and you can see these were planted along the water terrace. The soil's good, getting worse. Okay, so you can see the difference in diameter on the trees, and you'll see that anywhere on any farm because your soils vary, you know, from one place to the other. But you can see its potential even in the minimum soil there, well, reasonable soil, okay? And of course, that's a water terrace, so water collects from the acres above and collects there, so you got, you know, extra water for the trees too. These are Euphorbiaceae. They have a little fruit. Birds don't like them, birds don't eat them, and hundreds of seeds in them. Teeny little seed, so very easy to propagate. And then if you leave them, in Samoa they plant them along their property lines because they can leave them there for a long time, get house posts from them, and then when they reach bigger diameter in 15 years, when they're good logging size, they make a fantastic timber that can be used as resistant to bugs. So it's quite a good thing, quite a nice tree. You can plant them, the spacing I've got them, they make a nice windbreak. Yeah, I highly recommend it.
It's good for animal fodder too, animal feed.
I rather doubt it.
Someplace.
It's a Euphorbiaceae. I don't know anything along that line.
Where is the animals?
No animals here.
They were here.
We're here. Yeah, I'm too old for animals. Dogs are all I can handle. Cats. Before we had goats, chickens, ducks, geese.
Oh, you have
Yeah.
goat and sheep.
Yeah, so not anymore. Okay, so anyway, moving on here. Something you could put around your homestead and probably be assured it's going to be there in 25 years.
Use it for a teepee too.
You can use it for lots of things, you know. So it's quite an excellent tree. I'm quite impressed with it.
And the diameter can get this big.
Oh no, the diameter can get. Oh yeah, I'm talking. That's 7-year-old trees there.
Right.
These are only a couple years, and they harvest them for posts when they're about 6 to 7 inches in diameter.
But
7 years later, they're anywhere from 12 to 18 inches in diameter. Yeah,
you
in
get
good soils.
good wood out of it.
Oh yeah, excellent. Very hard, dense. We have a wood in Borneo called Usiroxylin and Usiroxylin, Zwaggerai, and it takes 3 chainsaws to cut down one tree that's that big around. Because the wood is so hard, it just dulls the blades completely. So they always left them when they logged. Because the honey bears couldn't climb the trees either, and so the bees would build their nest up in the tops of the trees. The wood is so hard and the bark's thin, so the honey bears with their big claws couldn't get their claws into the wood to get to the honey. Ooh. So there's other species planted here. This just doesn't seem to lend itself to much of eating, you know. Sweet potato tips, good, lots of tips, you know, cucurbits, pumpkin and so forth, good, but I don't think so. But anyway, we'll try this out. It's crawled all over there, which tells me one thing, it can be invasive. So we will clean everything up, and if it's of no good value, it's only margin or something, it will be in the gone by the wayside, and all the seeds will be destroyed. So.
You know if it's monoecious or dioecious?
That's monoecious. It's male and female flowers.
Okay.
And I don't know if they're on the same vine or different vines, because we got quite a few planted here. So, but that's the fun of new crops. Maybe it'll turn out to be you know, pretty good. But then again, maybe it's junk. And you know, there's always that chance.
And they turn more yellow when they're ripe?
We're not
sure?
We're not sure. We picked one, and we'll see how that is. We'll probably let them until they get really yellow.
Yeah.
It's I can't find any information. Nobody seems to know much about it. We use this setup because we deal with a lot of vines, beans, and all that stuff. And rather than growing bush beans or something, we do wing beans, we do vine type of string beans and stuff. And we're just ready now to start planting again. This is that exotica papaya that I mentioned. When they reach a certain height where they're almost impossible to get anymore, then we've started already to plant new ones, and we have young ones coming. So it's just completely recycle, you know, over 3 to 4 year period of time. But these are very, very productive. You can look. We got any papaya experts in here?
I heard that Tropica doesn't.
Exotica.
Exotica doesn't hybridize very well.
Well, okay. I can't reach a flower right now, but like I said, the term cleistogamous means that it self-pollinates before it opens. And almost all papayas, not all, but most papayas that are cultivars, the solos and so forth, that have had man's hand in the operation in hybridizing, they pollinate before the flower opens, okay? Because the stigma and pistil are side by side, and they shed the pollen, and the stigma is viable, and they're pollinated. So by the time they open, it's already too late, okay? So when we hybridize papaya, we find flowers that are coming to open but haven't, and we know they're still not viable. Then we take a flower, we open it up and stick the other flower that is viable in there to pollinate. And we just pop them in, put a little bag over it, and we'll get the cross. Okay? But of course we've extracted, I didn't go through the whole thing, but we've taken the petals and sepals off, and we've taken all the pollen out, and there's only a stigma there, so we put that in. So, and I don't know about how this is a hybrid. I don't know, anything about it, but what you want is a stable papaya. Just like I said, for 25 years, this is from the original seed source in Sabah in Borneo. So they've stayed uniform. We only select seed from the biggest, nicest fruit. That's our next generation. You don't want to take a small fruit. You want to get the biggest, nicest fruit before you take seed from it. And so, now, most of your cultivars that are solo oriented have only hermaphrodite and female. Okay, there are no males normally. Okay, if you find papayas in South America and some of the wild ones, like on Guam, there's every other tree is a male tree. We don't have that. That's sort of been excised out of the genetic pool with solo-based papayas. So you have rarely ever see. I've never seen a solo that has a male. So you have hermaphrodites or females. So the way to tell them apart, because a lot of people want to know how to plant papayas because they're not papaya farmers. We take seed and you can either put them in the ground or you can put them in a pot. A lot of times we put them in the pot in the nursery and we weed them down till there's 3 or 4 or 5. We plant them like here. Then we'll come along, and when they reach a certain point and flower, we'll take the first flower, we'll open it up, and if there's yellow in there, that means there's pollen, which means it's a hermaphrodite, okay, because we don't have males. It has to be a hermaphrodite, and that's the one we want. If there's no pollen, chop chop. That one comes down, and there's usually more females than there are hermaphrodites than females. Usually at least 3 to 1. So most of the time they're hermaphrodites anyway. And you can tell a female because it's round, the fruit. It's hollow inside, okay, no seed. And whereas the hermaphrodite fruit will be elongate, the normal shape of the papaya. So it's just that little yellow, that pollen, that's the way to sex them. Okay, this is our sex education for this tour.
How are you dealing with birds from getting them and rats from getting them?
First of all, birds only like very ripe ones. So you see the yellow and green ones there? Okay, as soon as they start to get green, yellow on, you pick them. You don't let them till the birds get them. Birds only get the very ripe ones. So if you miss a few, the birds will get them. We don't have a rat problem with the papayas. They like to eat other things that are more juicy, I guess. So anyway, when you reach a certain point, it's time to replant. We use, oh yeah, go ahead.
I have a male papaya, but I don't know what kind it is.
Cut it down, you don't care.
They're no good?
No good. No fruit. What good
I
are they?
thought it was to fertilize
No.
the other trees.
No. They're eunuchs.
Okay.
No, you cut it down. Oh, I'll show you our operation. This is MacNut husk. Yeah. And of course there's always a lot of MacNut shell in it and so forth. That's okay. It'll break down 1,000,000 years. No problem. And we mix other things in. There's bamboo wood chips. There's all kinds of wood chips, compost, kitty litter, you name it. Anything that's a waste goes in here. Okay. We don't add our fish. We don't actively do the composting like a lot of people. We don't turn the piles. We don't do all that kind of stuff. We do anaerobic composting because it goes out. After 1 year sitting there, it goes out. Okay, and we got all the things in the ground. We don't inject that fish. The fish goes on top, like I said before, because it's a matter of ease of application. If I try to mix it in a huge compost pile, 60 yards of MacNut, how am I going to get an even distribution? I can't. But I can come after I spread the MacNut compost and get an even distribution of my fish or whatever I'm putting down on top of it. So that's how we do it. That's how we do it. Might not be the right way, but that's how we do it. You have to decide for yourself. All these will have. If you'll see down here, I'll get one. You just stay there.
Ross said group papaya from Hamakua, there's Australian virus up here because there's not enough papaya being grown.
If you remember the fluted gourd that was in there on the bench, This is why we grow fluted gourd. It's for those. That is a absolutely delicious vegetable. And this is the national vegetable of Nigeria. It's called ugu. And it's fluted gourd. Okay? Telfairia occidentalis from Nigeria and other parts of Africa. But it's not known too much outside of Nigeria. But this is really delicious, really delicious. But you have male and female vines. And in order to get the seed set, of course you need the males. We only have female vines now because we had a catastrophic failure on one of our fruits that was supposed to have seed in and they were all none. Because the fruit will develop even without pollination. But the Nigerians get rid of the males because they don't care about that. This is what they want, the female ones. The female ones are this size. The males are piddly little things. I mean, you can eat them, but they're not like this. But this is a wonderful, delicious thing. And these vines are coming back now. We chop them all back at the end of the year and then they'll re-sprout. They have a huge, massive root system. Not invasive, anything. So they're growing down there and these should come back. We haven't tried them from cuttings yet, but that's our next step until we get more seed from Africa. And these are like a lot of cucurbits. I mean, I don't eat them raw. They have a little bitterness to them, but even so, maybe this one. Maybe I should be eating it.
Nutritious too, yeah.
It's organic anyway.
Yeah.
We started in about 1991 when Charles Clement here to do his PhD on hearts of palm for Hawaii. He's an American who worked at INPA in Brazil, and he brought his knowledge and everything here to do his PhD and resolve this thing. We've had hearts of palm here for many, many years before that, okay? But it wasn't harvested for hearts of palm, it wasn't grown for hearts of palm, and all of them were spiny. If you've been to Waiakea at the research station, that big block of palms, that was all brought in by Dr. Richard Hamilton for the fruit, not for the hearts of palm. And they're all spiny. You know, they got spines like this will kill you. These are all spineless hearts of palm, okay, pehibai, because we can't deal with spines. It's not possible to deal with spines. And it affects the product, because we're sowing fresh. When you're sowing canned, it's a different story, but fresh, you can't have those spines because the spines are still on the soft tissue underneath, okay? They haven't hardened yet, but they're still there. And so, you know, a five-star chef doesn't want to deal with something like that. These don't have it. Very clean, very beautiful product. And that's how it became a fresh product for us.